Islam in England is not a recent phenomenon. It's a story woven into the fabric of the nation for centuries. Often overlooked or misunderstood, this rich history has shaped England in profound ways, from early encounters with Muslim traders to vibrant communities today. Islam's journey in England is one of resilience and enduring contributions. This narrative challenges the notion of Islam as a foreign entity. It reveals a long-standing relationship marked by periods of both cooperation and conflict. Understanding this history is crucial to dismantling stereotypes and fostering genuine intercultural dialogue. From the bustling streets of London to rural towns, the presence of Islam in England is undeniable. Mosques stand as testaments to a vibrant faith, while the aroma of spices fills the air, hinting at cultural fusion. Yet the story of Islam in England runs deeper than these outward expressions. It's a story of adaptation and resilience. Muslims facing periods of tolerance and adversity have woven their traditions into English society. This journey will illuminate the often overlooked contributions of Muslims to English society. From the arts and sciences to social reform and community building, their impact has been profound. However, the path has not been without its obstacles. We will also confront the challenges faced by the Muslim community, from issues of integration and representation to the threat of Islamophobia. By understanding these struggles, we can work towards a more inclusive and equitable future. The story of Islam in England begins not on battlefields but on the open seas. As early as the 8th century, Muslim traders from the Middle East and North Africa navigated the waters around Britain. These merchants sought new markets for their exotic wares. Their ships, laden with spices, silks and crafts, docked at English ports, offering a glimpse into a different world. The Anglo-Saxons were captivated by the vibrant textiles, perfumes and metalwork brought by these merchants. Trade was not a one-way street. Muslim traders sought wool, tin and other raw materials abundant in the British Isles. This exchange fostered a significant connection between the two cultures. Beyond goods, these encounters planted the seeds of cultural exchange. Muslim traders brought with them their language, customs, and faith. While their initial presence was primarily economic, their distinct identity began to leave a subtle imprint on the English landscape. As trade routes solidified, so did the presence of Muslims in England. What began as short trading expeditions evolved into more permanent settlements. Muslim merchants established communities in key port cities like London, Bristol and Southampton. These early communities were vibrant hubs of cultural and religious exchange. They established mosques, often modest structures, to serve as centers for prayer and community gatherings. Life within these enclaves revolved around faith, family and livelihood. These communities were not isolated enclaves. Interaction with the local populace was a necessity for both trade and daily life. As Muslims integrated into English society, their customs began to seep into the broader cultural milieu. The English language itself bears testament to this early interaction. Words like cotton, sugar, admiral and algebra have Arabic roots, reflecting the influence of Muslim traders and scholars. This linguistic legacy underscores the significant impact of early Muslim communities on English culture. Echoes of the Orient: Islam's influence on medieval England. Islam's influence extended beyond language and commerce. Muslim scholars brought knowledge in mathematics, astronomy and medicine. Their expertise was sought in royal courts and centers of learning. This led to a burgeoning intellectual exchange. They expanded European knowledge with scientific treatises and medical texts. This influx of ideas contributed to the Renaissance. A complex tapestry, tolerance and tensions in early encounters. The story of Islam in early England was marked by periods of cultural exchange and mutual benefit, but also complexities. The relationship between Muslims and the Christian majority was often characterized by tolerance, curiosity and suspicion. During periods of peace, Muslim communities were generally accepted as part of the social fabric. They were allowed to practice their faith, conduct trade and contribute to society. Royal charters and legal documents from the period offer evidence of this coexistence. However, this tolerance was not always absolute. Religious differences and political tensions sometimes led to suspicion and mistrust. The Crusades cast a long shadow over interfaith relations. The heightened religious fervor occasionally led to discrimination and violence against Muslims. These incidents highlight the fragility of tolerance in the face of religious and political tensions. The narrative of Islam in England reveals a complex interplay of acceptance, accommodation, and occasional conflict. Shifting sands Islam under Tudor and Stuart rule. The Tudor era ushered in profound religious and political change in England. The Protestant Reformation altered the religious landscape, impacting all religious minorities, including Muslims. Henry VIII's break from the Roman Catholic Church created a climate of religious upheaval. While the primary focus was on Catholics and Protestants, the presence of a small Muslim community did not go unnoticed. The Tudor monarchs viewed religious minorities with suspicion. Muslims faced growing pressure to conform or face consequences. Despite these challenges, small pockets of Muslim traders and their families continued to reside in England. They maintained a low profile, practicing their faith discreetly while engaging in trade. Their ability to adapt and navigate the shifting religious tides became a hallmark of Muslim communities. A new wave, the arrival of Muslim sailors and merchants. As England entered the 17th century, the age of exploration brought a new wave of Muslim arrivals. Skilled sailors and merchants from the Ottoman Empire, North Africa, and the Indian subcontinent were drawn by economic opportunities. These new arrivals brought with them Islamic traditions and practices. They hailed from diverse cultural backgrounds, adding new layers to the existing Muslim community. Many of these Muslim sailors and merchants settled in port cities like London, Bristol, and Liverpool. They established mosques, often in private homes, to serve their religious needs. This new wave coincided with England's involvement in the transatlantic slave trade. While there is no evidence of organized Muslim involvement in the slave trade, some individual Muslims may have been indirectly connected. Faith finds a foothold, the establishment of enduring communities. Despite challenges, the 17th and 18th centuries witnessed the establishment of more permanent Muslim communities. These communities began to put down roots, laying the foundation for the growth of Islam. One significant development was the establishment of the first purpose-built mosque in 1707. Located in Butcher Row, London, this modest structure served as a testament to the growing presence of the Muslim community. It provided a dedicated space for prayer, religious instruction, and community gatherings. The growth of these communities was bolstered by the arrival of Muslim women. Their presence helped transform these early settlements into more settled communities. The establishment of these communities marked a turning point in the history of Islam in England. Muslims were becoming a visible and increasingly established part of the social fabric. Whispers of prejudice, early manifestations of Islamophobia. The growing visibility of Muslim communities coincided with the emergence of more overt forms of prejudice. The term Islamophobia may not have existed, but sentiments of fear and mistrust were taking root. European perceptions of Islam were shaped by religious prejudice, political rivalry, and cultural misunderstandings. The Ottoman Empire represented both a military threat and a commercial rival, fueling anxieties. These anxieties found expression in cultural production. Plays, pamphlets, and travelogues often depicted Muslims in negative terms, reinforcing biases. These portrayals contributed to a climate of fear and suspicion. The early manifestations of Islamophobia had a tangible impact on the lives of Muslims. They faced discrimination in housing, employment, and social interactions. The seeds of prejudice sown during this period would continue to plague relations in the centuries to come. Threads of influence Muslims in Victorian England. The Victorian era witnessed a subtle yet significant shift in the presence and perception of Muslims. The British Empire brought its citizens into closer contact with Islam. This increased interaction had a multifaceted impact. On one hand, it fueled a fascination with the Orient. Exoticism permeated Victorian culture, shaping perceptions of the East. On the other hand, the colonial context reinforced existing prejudices. The relationship between Britain and its Muslim subjects was marked by tension. This fueled a narrative of European superiority and a perception of Islam as a backward force. Despite these challenges, Muslim communities continued to grow. The arrival of students, professionals, and intellectuals from British India added new layers to the Muslim population. These individuals challenged stereotypical views and contributed to a more nuanced understanding of Islam. Beyond the bizarre Muslim contributions to science and medicine, while Victorian perceptions often revolved around Orientalist tropes, the contributions of Muslims to science and medicine were becoming difficult to ignore. Muslim intellectuals and professionals brought a rich legacy of knowledge. In medicine, Muslim physicians trained in the Unani system made their mark. They established practices in major cities offering alternative therapies. Muslim mathematicians, astronomers, and engineers advanced scientific knowledge. Their contributions were essential to the functioning of the British Raj. The presence of these professionals challenged the narrative of European intellectual dominance. Their expertise highlighted the interconnectedness of knowledge systems and the contributions of non-European cultures to global intellectual history. A place of worship, a symbol of belonging, the rise of mosques. The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw the establishment of more permanent and architecturally distinct mosques. Funded by wealthy benefactors, these mosques symbolized a growing sense of belonging. The Shah Jahan Mosque, built in Woking in 1889, is a notable example. Its Indo-Islamic architecture marked a departure from modest prayer spaces. These mosques also served as centers of community life, hosting religious and social events. Section 4. Seeds of Change: Muslims and Early Social Reform Movements. The late 19th and early 20th centuries were a time of significant social and political ferment in Britain. Muslims, while a small minority, were not immune to these currents of change. Some Muslims, particularly students and intellectuals, engaged in social reform movements. They advocated for workers' rights, campaigned against colonial exploitation, and challenged discrimination. These early seeds of activism would blossom into more organized movements for social justice and equality. Section 1. Through the Fires of War. Muslims in the World Wars and beyond. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 marked a turning point in Britain's history and its relationship with Muslim subjects. Muslims, both in Britain and its colonies, responded with loyalty and patriotism. Thousands of Muslim soldiers from British India fought alongside British troops in Europe and the Middle East. Their bravery and sacrifices challenged stereotypes and highlighted shared commitment to the empire. The war also brought about a heightened awareness of Islam and Muslims within British society. Section 2. A New Dawn, New Challenges, Post-War Migration and Integration. The end of World War II ushered in an era of significant social and demographic change in Britain. The nation opened its doors to immigrants from its former colonies, including those with significant Muslim populations. This wave of migration brought a significant influx of Muslims to Britain. Many arrived seeking a better life and contributing to the nation's recovery. This influx enriched British society, but also presented new challenges. Integration was not without difficulties, as immigrants faced prejudice and social exclusion. These challenges underscored the need for greater understanding and tolerance. Section 3. The Spectre of Islamophobia, From Prejudice to Discrimination. While Muslims had faced prejudice and discrimination in earlier centuries, the post-war period witnessed the emergence of a more overt and organized form of Islamophobia. This phenomenon, fueled by social anxieties, economic insecurity, and far-right ideologies, cast a long shadow over the lives of Muslims in Britain. The growth of Islamophobia manifested in various forms, from verbal harassment and hate crimes targeting Muslims to discriminatory practices in housing, employment, and education. Muslims were often portrayed in the media as a monolithic and threatening other, their faith conflated with extremism and violence. This climate of fear and suspicion had a chilling effect on Muslim communities. Many felt vulnerable and targeted, their faith and identity subject to scrutiny and suspicion. Mosques, once seen as places of peace and solace, became targets of vandalism and arson attacks. The rise of Islamophobia, while a deeply troubling development, also galvanized Muslim communities and their allies to organize and speak out against hate and discrimination. Organizations dedicated to combating Islamophobia, promoting interfaith dialogue, and advocating for the rights of Muslims emerged, challenging prejudice and promoting understanding. Section 4. Navigating Identity, British Muslims in a Changing World. As Britain entered the 21st century, Muslims found themselves navigating a complex and rapidly changing world. The events of 9/11 and the subsequent War on Terror had a profound impact on how Muslims were perceived. Despite these challenges, British Muslims continued to make significant contributions to all aspects of British life. They challenged Islamophobia, promoted interfaith dialogue, and advocated for social justice. Section 1. A woven legacy, Islam's enduring presence in England. Islam in England is not a recent phenomenon, but a thread woven into the nation's fabric for over a millennium. From early Muslim merchants to vibrant communities today, Islam's journey in England is one of resilience and contributions. This narrative resonates in our language, food, and architecture. The legacy of early Muslim traders and scholars is evident in words like algebra and in medical knowledge, yet this journey has faced challenges. Muslims have navigated tolerance and prejudice, confronting suspicion and discrimination. Islamophobia demands vigilance and inclusivity. Despite hurdles, Muslims enrich the nation's cultural mosaic. Section 2. Towards an inclusive future, challenges and opportunities. The narrative of Islam in England stands at a critical juncture. The globalized world presents both opportunities and challenges for British Muslims. Social media offers connection but also fuels Islamophobia. The challenge is to amplify voices of understanding and foster dialogue. It requires collective effort to dismantle stereotypes and create a society where everyone feels valued. Education is key in this endeavor. By integrating Islamic history into curricula, we can foster empathy and dispel misconceptions. The future of Islam in England hinges on justice, equity, and inclusivity. It requires acknowledging past injustices and celebrating contributions. The story of Islam in England is still being written. It is a story that belongs to all of us, celebrating diversity.